Yeah. Okay, the Gentry Podcast. I know that you will be loving it. We here to break it down so that you start to understand your local government. Who are the leaders? Time to get active, do something about it. Dealing with jobs, the workforce, and affordable housing. Motivate and inspire. Elevate, take it higher. For the next generation. Knowledge is power for your community. Giving you the info that you really need. Time to make a change and a difference. Tune in, don't miss it. It's the Gentry. The Jentry Podcast. The Jentry Podcast. Making a change, switching it up.
Hello, and welcome to the Jentry Podcast today. We have an incredible guest. I'm your host, Jonathan Mason, but more importantly with me, I have Pious Ali, who is the City Councilor in Portland, Maine. And he's also the Mayor Pro Tem. But also, in addition to that, he is the first African-born and Muslim appointed to or elected to the council. So he's a first in so many different ways. He has so much experience. So I'm just excited to have them. Pious, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. And thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. As I stated, you have an incredible background, and I can't wait to get into it. But before we do, I always like to just jump straight into it. What makes Portland, Maine, the best place to live in America? What's the special sauce?
The people. Portland is a great place, but what makes it great is the people who live here, the people who welcome me as an immigrant from Ghana to come and live here in one of the most coldest environment in the country. But here I am. I've been here for 23 years.
Wow. And that is quite the jump from Ghana to Maine. I spent a lot of my life in the Northeast, and it is not warm too often. So I definitely respect that. Now let's get into it. Let's get into that journey. What led you to America, and then what led you to Portland, and now you're running the city council. How did we get here? Was public service always in your blood?
Always been what I do. You know, I always ask myself that question. How did we get here? I ask myself that, and I keep reminding myself that sometimes in life, whereby you do plan where you want to go, you don't have an answer, or you don't plan how you get there. So back in Ghana, I was a photojournalist, work with a lot of print media. I joke that there's hardly a day that passes without my work being published by a newspaper or magazine in Ghana. And in 2000, I decided to travel. I also joke that I photograph everybody from the everyday person on the street to the president of Ghana. And I was looking for more people to photograph. So I came to New York. I arrived in New York in 2000 and lived in New York for 2 years. And in 2002, came to visit a friend in Portland, and I fell in love with the place. And then I decided to stay. As I said, yes, the people are great. It's a great place to live. But more importantly, the sense of community, a small community where if you walk down the road, hardly will you pass 3 people without one person knowing who you are. It doesn't matter who you are in the city or what you do. Your neighbors know you. You are not just a number. You are an individual with a name and a face. And the people in the community will remind you of that every day. And so coming from Ghana and living in New York and coming to visit in this place that is so beautiful and small and welcoming and warm to people that visit and live here, it was a no-brainer for me to decide not to move here. So I moved here. And when I moved here, I work in the restaurant industry. I did work from dishwasher to to prep chef to baker, and it went on and on and on. There's hardly an aspect in the kitchen, a role in the kitchen that I haven't been. And I met my ex-wife, my children's mom, whilst here. And one day she said to me that, I know you work in the restaurant, you love working in the restaurant, but you have skills of engaging people. And I have seen a job in the newspaper that I believe will be a good job for you. You will be a good person to do that. You will be a great fit. It was an after-school program working with young people. Most of them are immigrants. Some of them are kids who are mainstream white American kids coming from extremely challenging background. And I applied for the job. Unfortunately, I didn't have a background in social work, so I didn't get a job. However, as it's meant to be, The person that got the job stayed on the job for, I think, 2 months or so, and then had a better offer somewhere. And so the director of that program called my home line and left a message and said that if you are interested in that job, we would love to talk to you. We met over coffee in a few days, and she told me that of all the people that applied for the job, you were the one with the least experience in social work. However, what they did was they brought us around to talk to the young people who you will work with, and you had the highest score from these young people. So we believe that if the person that we chose to hire based on her background will not be able to do the work, or she left, we may just reach out to you and see. And thinking about it later on, after I've moved on, I realized that it may not be one, it's my personality being able to engage with them, but also I had dreadlocks and a piercing. And I think these kids think that this dude is cool. So they gave me a high score. I got that job. I was working with immigrants from all over the world that live here in Portland, Maine, who live in public housing, and families who have challenging backgrounds financially, who are mainstream. And that job was able to connect me to the community because I was able to know the parents of each of the young people that come to my program. If you sign up today, what we do is we sign them up at the beginning of the school year, and I would take a month out and go to each kid's home and introduce myself to their parents and say that my name is so and so. I'm working with your kid. And so if they come home and they tell you that we are going on a field trip or doing something, this is my number. Call me to make sure that I am the one that is going to go with them. And that connected me to that neighborhood. And over the years, parents who are immigrants and mainstream parents get to know me as the person to go to when you want to talk about your kid, or when you are looking for opportunities for kids. So that is how I started building a community in a city that I wasn't born and raised in. So that is the beginning of my bigger political career. I did that for some time, and then I work with young people who are incarcerated. In Maine, young people as young as 12 years can be incarcerated. They call it a juvenile center, but come to think of it, that sound of a metal gate being locked behind you, and that line up that these young people have to walk on to go to eat or to come to my program that I was running in is nothing but a replication of what is done in the adult jail. It is called youth the training center, but yes, they do add something to their lives, but it's a jail. So I did work with some homeless kids, and then down the line, I started an organization called Men Interfaith Youth Alliance. I am a Muslim. The idea is to bring young people who are coming from faith and young people who are not even from faith to talk to each other, because I believe that the only way that we will survive as human beings is when we talk to each other. Pointing to each other as the enemy is not going to send us anywhere. Then whilst doing that, I also get connected to an international organization called Seeds of Peace. Seeds of Peace brings young people from the Middle East, to some extent North Africa, Pakistan, India, whose countries are in conflict with each other. They bring them to a summer camp here in Maine. I work for them as a facilitator. And then after the camp, I bring the kids from Maine, because we have kids from Maine who go to the camp. The kids from Maine, the unique part of the Maine program is that the kids are coming from southern Maine, where it is overly diverse, and then northern Maine, where it is very homogenic. They're all white kids, or most of them are white kids, but we're able to bring them together. And after the camp, we work with them to get to talk to each other. So I ran that for some time. I currently serve on the board of that organization. I have also worked with the NWSCP. I work with the NWSCP, the local one, to create an organization called King Fellows, after Dr. King. We ran that for some time, and then I started a daytime job called Portland Empowered, where I work with immigrant parents to get them to understand the way education works in the U.S. So we have the parent part, which we call Parent Engagement Partners. And then we have high school leadership program called Youth Engagement Partners. Down the line, the last few years of my working with this organization, I created a leadership program for emerging, as we call them, emerging leaders, which is young BIPOCs who are in college and about to graduate, or those who have graduated and are struggling with, how do I fit into larger society? Probably they don't have anybody in their family that have been to college. Probably their parents are immigrants. They went to college, they have careers back home, but they don't have no idea how to be a professional individual here in the US. So our role is to get the parents to understand how education system, and then get high school students to participate in how their schools are run, to give feedback to the school administration, and the emerging leaders to look at how to engage the system that they are in civically, professionally, and also how can they give back to society, the society that they live in. I ran that for 13 years. And 2 years ago, I decided to step down to pursue something else, which I will share later down the conversation. However, I'm going to go back to how I decided to run for office and why I did. After doing this work in the community for several years, one of my team members from the Portland Empowered, the organization that work with parents, one day walked into the office and said that, I think there is 2 seats on the school board. I love the people that are running, but I think you'll be a better candidate. You'll bring a lot of things to, and I said to her that I'm not interested in politics. And she said, well, everything that you've done, from going to city council to advocate, to going to school board meetings, organizing protests, and working with the NWSCP, the homeless kids, the kids who are incarcerated, all of that is politics. And I literally said to her, I'm not interested in organized politics. We went back and forth, and then I asked someone, say, like, that woman, she's been bugging me to run for, she kept saying every day if she sees me, she'll remind me. And then the person said, and so what? She's right. You will be the right person to run for school board, which I eventually did and got elected. There were 2 seats with 6 of us running to grab those 2 seats. I was lucky enough, and I'm privileged. I was lucky enough, and I'm grateful to the people of Portland for giving me that honor and privilege to serve them. So that was the beginning of my political career. As you have said earlier, when I got elected, I was the first Muslim and the first African immigrant to be elected into any office in the state of Maine. And then on top of that, I am the first Ghanaian American to be elected into any office in the US. So I served in that office for 3 years, which is 1 term. And then I ran for city council in 2016, and I have served in that role since then. Currently, I am the longest serving city councilor with 9 years down my belt. And so that makes me the mayor pro tem, which means that if for whatever reason the mayor is not available to run the council meetings and be the mayor for the city, I become the mayor. In 2023, I tried 10 years after my first election and ran for mayor. Unfortunately, I didn't get elected. But for me, even being on the ballot is a victory, because here I am, an immigrant from Ghana who find himself in Maine of all places and running and winning elections, and in the process motivating and inspiring other people to run. I can proudly say that since when I ran and I was the only person in elected office for almost 4 years, we currently have close to 13 African immigrants in elected office in Maine. I'm not going to claim that it is because of me, but I'm pretty sure that I motivated and inspired some of them. I was not the first to run. There were 2 or 3 Somali brothers who ran, and then 1 South Sudanese sister, but I was the first to be elected.
Wow, that is incredible. I'm glad I didn't try to tell your story too much. I pride myself in always letting my guests share their story, because it's so much more impactful that way. But thank you. Even going back to the beginning, there was a calling out there for you, and it took your wife at the time even just telling you, like, hey, this is a job that I think you would be good at, and it didn't come through. And I hope the young viewers especially that see that sometimes it's not on our time. Sometimes it is maybe in the cards for you, but just not at that moment. And it was a quick turnaround, 2 months, and they were calling you back. And that was, I like the way you said that was the first day you were building your community. Not that this was on your mind in like a Machiavellian sense, but I also feel like that was the first day you started your campaign, and your campaign campaign
Yeah.
is your mission and your legacy of pouring into students, helping immigrant families, students and the families, and being there, being that point of contact for also a lot of students in the main area, just so they can know where their children are at and what are the opportunities. So I believe that was the day that you started your campaign, and clearly you did a great job 9 years into your public service as a council member. Is very impressive. So on that note, I'd love to dive into it a little bit. In your words, what is a council member? What does that mean for our younger viewers?
Well, I'm sure that because it is overly popular, everyone knows that you have the federal government and which governs the whole country. And then you have the state government. In some places in between, once you go past the state, you have the county government. And then beneath the county government is the municipal government, which is the city government. In some places, the county is the government for the city and the county. But in Maine, the county is a county, which is a collection of a lot of cities and then and towns, and then you have a city government. So the city government is the collected, elected individuals who make policies, they make the budget. They are in charge of the city or town that they are governing. And it is a political office. You run for it. And each city have what we call the charter, or that is the constitution of the city or town. And that charter spells out what your role is. In Portland, Maine, the charter says that there should be a mayor who will be elected by the people who live in the whole city, and then 3 at-large city councilors who will also be elected by everybody who lives in the city, within the city. You have to be a U.S. citizen and a registered voter and a resident of the city to either run or be elected, or run or vote. And then Portland is divided into 5 districts. So you have district-specific councilors who can only be voted for by the people who live in that district. And you have to live in that district to run for that office. So we do policies, and we only hire 3 people: the city manager, who is like the executive director, the corporation counsel, who is the lawyer or the attorney general that will make it easy for the city, and then the city clerk, who is the administrator of the city in terms of collecting and keeping records and history of the city. They attend every meeting and take notes about the meetings that we've done. And also they register death and birth and marriages in the city. So my role as a city councilor is to look at the city, listen to my residents, and look at what is working and what is not working, and debate and bring ideas forward that will make the city better. We do the budget for the city. The city manager hires everyone else that work for the city. The city manager hires the police chief, the fire department chief, the director of health and human service, and then run the day-to-day, operations of the city. But we, as the city government, we make the rules and the guidelines that the city manager will work on. So we make the rules, we make the policies, we provide the money and everything else, and the city manager executes it. It's a very influential position if you know what you are doing, and if you are coming from a service oriented. Yes, it's a political office, but at the core of it, it is serving the community that you live in.
Makes a ton of sense. And thank you for the breakdown, even starting from federal down to state to county, and then the interplay between council and city manager. I thank you for teasing that out. Now, one of the things that he stated were you guys kind of set the guidelines. Now, that gets me to a question. Have you guys done a strategic planning process or comprehensive plan recently? And if so, what are some of the things you guys are focused on right now?
Right. So the comprehensive plan is done once a year. It is the blueprint that guide the city to do their work for the next 10 years. I think the last one is about 6 years ago. However, every year, the council, before we start our work, because there's almost always an election in November, and then you take the oath of office in, the first Monday of December. The structure is that each person will serve for 3 years, and then they will have to run again. We don't have term limits. The mayor is 4 years with a 2 years term, 2 terms term limits. So every year, each of us, the councillors, will come up with an idea of what we want to solve or what we want to work through. Also knowing that since we are a government, there are some things that may happen, which will force us to look at our policies and make some changes. So for this year, I believe that most of the goals that we have set is around housing. Portland is having like a housing crisis. We have a lot of people who are on the streets who are unhoused, and both of these two things. And then we're also a coastal state and city. So the environment is also some of the issues. And we also have our education system to make sure that it is run properly. Those are some of the things that we are working on. I chair the housing committee, and for the first time, we have doubled into completely different form of housing that we have never done. We have created the new members of the housing committee brought the idea of creating what is called social housing, which to some extent is a private public partnership where the city will give the land and then private developers will work with the city. However, the city owns the property and the city will rent it out. There are many different formats, and so we didn't want to do it because we've never done that. We just created what we call the Social Housing Advisory Committee. It's a group that the mayor put together. The councillor who brought the idea is the chair, and then there's another councillor. And then we have people who are developers. We have housing advocates. It is made up of people with different varied interests around housing. So they will work for the next, I think, 6 months and then make recommendations to the full council on how to create our social housing program. And the other one that we've never done that before, but we've been working on that for the past 3 years or so, is the co-op housing, where city provide land and people buy into it. It is done in a way that people will buy into it when you pay some money upfront to have an apartment in the co-op housing. Your rent is considered as an investment. You can sell it out to someone else after living there for, let's say, 20 years. They will evaluate and look at how much equity have you earned. You cannot, there are all sort of rules. It is privately owned, but it is a collaboration between the city and the people. We give some funding and we give some land so that they will be able to do it and create housing. So those are some of the things that we are doing. We are working to make sure that we have a needle exchange program that we started a couple of years ago. It does have its own unintended consequences, because the individuals who go in there and get access to the needles, because of the condition that some of them are in, we don't get the same needles back as we've given out. A few days ago, the Health and Human Service Committee that is looking into that had a meeting, and I'm glad to say that city staff told us that we are getting close to 85% return. And our hope is that, of course, it's going to be practically impossible to get 100%, but it is practically possible to get as close as possible to maybe 90 or 95. So those are some of the things that we are working on. But housing is at the front of everything that we do because of where we are as a country and as a city. Yeah.
Those are two innovative ways to look at it. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see what they come up with that social housing committee. Just to see some of the innovative strategies. I talk to people across the nation, and I always say like that's one of the biggest issues. I mean, you said that as well, and just trying to figure out what can be done. And it's not going to be a one size fits all, but it sounds like you guys are being thoughtful about it and trying to figure out the best couple ways. It sounds like to address it. Now, I do, just to double click on it, we hear there's a housing crisis. And like I said, I talk to people across the nation, and that means different things. What are the issues that are plaguing Maine? Like, for example, I talked to a mountain town, and they're landlocked. So they have jobs, they have good median incomes, but they just don't have enough land. Then it's other areas that I've come in contact with. They have just one type of housing, so they lack the diversity in housing stock. What are some of the issues that are creating the crisis in Maine?
Yeah, we do have diversity in housing. We don't have one type. We have irregular housing. The challenge that we are facing is lack of resource financially to build more. And also we have antiquated housing rules at a state level that is making it difficult to build in certain part of not just the city, but certain part of the state. The state just passed a law that allows for certain parts of housing to be built. We here in Portland have what we call inclusionary zoning, where if you build any type of housing, 25% of it does have to be affordable housing. And then we also have nonprofit partners whom we support by giving them some funding so that they can access more funding because we give them funding to build up to build.
No, it sounds like you guys are doing all the things. So working with the legislature to increase the amount of things that you're able to do, to working with nonprofits, and that is something that comes up often. Sometimes it feels like where the government stops, whether it be resources or by charter, the nonprofits can kind of pick up the slack at times, and that collaboration between the two is what makes the government a good steward of taxpayer dollars and of the community itself. So I can definitely appreciate that. When you start to think of more long term, what are going to be the things that 25 years from now that people of Portland are going to be saying about their community?
I think we are a community that engage the government. So I will say that 25 years from now, my hope is that we have a housing that adequately house everyone. We have a city that is walkable, where we have been able to fix our all the walkways by the curbs or by the roadside. We have increased bike lanes. We've made it more safe. We have enough street lights where people who walk or who bike will feel safe once they do that in the winter or when it is dark. We have a city that is thriving and welcoming to everybody. As I said earlier, Maine is one of the whitest states in the union, and Portland is the largest city. And you will be surprised and amazed by the number of immigrants who live here, especially African immigrants. I have a joke that I share that 8 to 10 years ago, if you write down the names of 10 immigrants, I don't care where they are coming from, not only do I have their address, their phone numbers, and to some extent, their social security numbers, that part is a joke. Now, you give me 5, I will struggle to know all the 5. And that is only 10 years. And that shows you how the city have changed. In our schools, in one of the most whitest places in the country, in Portland, our public schools, it's a minority majority. There's more BIPOC kids than white kids, which shows an evolution that have gone very fast from the days that I was on the school board. When I was on the school board, I think it was maybe 65, 70, 30. And then in the course of 7 years, it's changed. So all these data looks beautiful on paper. I want our cities to reflect the people that live here in 25 years. Not only having one group of people being in leadership. I want it that when people walk into our hotels, if there are 100 hotels in Portland, if you walk into 50 of them are led by people who reflect the population that we have here. If you go to our banks, our schools, and every aspect of our city, the leadership will be proportionate to everybody who lives here, whether it is immigrants, BIPOCs, people from the LGBTQ community, and all the beautiful things that make our city beautiful. So that is what I hope, because I believe that we can do that. We are already doing that. And I'm looking forward to that. Whether I'm around to see it or not.
That is the future of inclusivity that you guys are definitely working towards, and that juxtaposition of knowing everybody in the immigrant community to not knowing even close to that many is a product and a nod to that. Now we know the future that we want to get to. In the moment, I always say I've heard a lot of good things from you and then from my research about Portland. If you can choose any challenge, and I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to give you a limited budget, a limited workforce, and a limited time to address one challenge that if you could just snap your fingers and change, what would that challenge be?
Housing. Yeah, I would love to build more housing. We have a lot of people. Some of them are veterans on our streets because there's not enough housing. So I would choose to do housing. Part of it should actually be what we call housing first, where we have a wraparound programs in it to help these people who are on our streets. and then we take care of others after that. But housing, housing, and housing. Yeah.
There's been and this makes me so happy. And I don't want to say, because I've said this, tried to make sure I always say it correctly. These aren't people that I believe are like left behind, but it's oftentimes these people can be taken care of after you take care of the typical voting age person that is the squeaky wheel in council. But I have seen recent doing these podcasts, a lot more focus has been on the unhoused community. I heard the city administrator in Ann Arbor, he said that. A council member in Oakland, California, he said that. He said, this is, if I had all the money in the world, this is what I would do. And that speaks to who you all are. Really just appreciate that, because you could have said anything about a constituent population that is going to make sure you're always reelected. Not saying that population doesn't vote, but just it does feel like sometimes electeds tend to focus on the squeaky wheel gets the oil. But I'm very appreciative that you said that.
Yeah.
Now focusing on the future again, and this will be my final question. Can you give some advice? Say a young person. A lot of the viewers that we have are young people that are starting to get more civically engaged and are maybe thinking about public service as a career. Could you share any advice to them, please?
Yes. First and foremost, be truth to yourself and find something that you care about in your community. Get involved in your community first and find something in your community that either have to be improved or a new thing that does not exist in your community, but you believe that it is needed. You have to go around and talk to people and then find a way to make it happen. The moment you start talking about it, there's a lot of people out there who agree with you. We all have something that I call sphere of influence, which is the 3 or 4 people that when you tell them that the sky is blue, they're not going to look and see whether it is blue or not. They will just agree with you that it is blue. If there's 4 of you, the 3 of them and you, that is 4. You tell them that I think we need this in our community. And if each of them talk to the people who are in their sphere of influence, you're going to have 15 people, including yours, that is 18 or 20. And then if all these people keep talking to people, the 3 people that they believe will agree with them that the sky is red when it actually is blue, you are going to build a mass movement. I will tell you a story. I mentioned that I stepped down from Portland Empowered. Last year, I took a course at Harvard. It's a 3 weeks course for people who are in local and state elections. And I walk away wanting to do more. And then I look at everything that I'm doing, which aspect of what I am doing that I haven't touched yet. When I got elected as the first African elected in Maine, there are other people who are elected across the country. And I have become part of a lot of national groups, but the only group that I don't see when I go to these national affinity groups are the African electeds. So I decided to talk to myself in my head to create something that I call African Elected Leaders in America. And the more I talk to people, the more I realize that it is an amazing idea. And the idea is to get African electeds to talk to each other and also get them to talk to their African American cousins and Latino Americans who are all in elected office so that we can tackle the challenge that impacts all of our communities together. But when I was thinking, I was like, nobody's going to listen to me. And then I start talking to people. And then it happens that there is the need for that, right? So to the young person who is watching this, no idea is too small or too big. Once you have an idea that will make your community better, that will make humanity better, start talking to other people. There's almost always support there. Even if the people don't agree with you, they will listen to you and they will look at your passion and they will give you the necessary support that you need to move it forward because it's a great idea.
Wow, that is an impactful thought, and I appreciate you stating that, and then also giving the example. You're walking the walk. You're making sure that many people, the diaspora, are working together to have their voice be heard in places that historically they were not, but collectively with mentorship from people like yourself who have gone through it and have been in it for a very long time. I think that is a great place to be. And then for the young people, yes, you do have your sphere of influence. You may think it's not that many people. So many movements in this country have started with young people and people on college campuses. Whether you think it's the next big thing or not, just get out there and try it. So, Pius, from everybody here at Gentry, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for imparting your knowledge. I appreciate it personally. When we chatted, I got to learn a lot and see how you look at the world, which I appreciate. So I did want to say thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the opportunity to share my story with your listeners. I hope it does help one or two people also shape their career and their future in public service.
Sure, for sure. No, thank you so much. And then to our viewers, thank you. Again, this has been the Gentry Podcast, and we've had Pious Ali, who is a city council member and mayor pro tem of Portland, Maine. Thank you so much and have a great
Thank
day.
you. Have a good day.